Happy Friday, everybody. Man, it feels so good to be able to say that. I'm feeling it. Fill the glass to the top with Moet. I feel like celebrating, even though there's really nothing for me to celebrate. It just feels good to be alive, to be behind the mic, and be talking about the National Football League. And so we're going to do that again here on the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. And it starts now. Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 144th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me on this outstanding Friday. Outstanding. Might be singing a lot today. I'm just in one of those types of moods, man. It's a nice day outside. It's been nice all week, honestly. We've been pretty much hovering around the 70s here in Northern Virginia. So I got no complaints about the weather. It's a little overcast today, a little cooler than it has been all week, but that's nor here nor there. Feeling really good. We're going to happy hour later on tonight. I haven't done a happy hour in over a year. Go figure, right? Pandemic hit last March. Haven't done a happy hour in that time frame. And so it just feels good to be able to say, you know what? Let's just get together, go out for some drinks, and have a good time amongst each other and enjoy each other's company. And that's what we're going to do today. Maybe that's why I'm in such a great mood, because I know after this is over, we're going to get in the car, we're going to take the drive, we're going to go to my parents' house, spend the weekend over there. We got a party to go to on Saturday, so things are starting to feel a little bit normal. You know, people are getting these vaccines, and there's this sense, it could be a sense of false hope, but there's this sense, you know, that's starting to percolate that things are getting a little, you know, normal. Things are starting to get back to some level of normalcy. We're not quite there yet. The Texas Rangers were the first American sports team to announce that we're going to have full capacity when we open up our stadium for the season. Well, that's a great step in the right direction. Again, Texas, Florida, you know, those are two different countries. They're separated from the rest of the United States of America. They make their own rules. So I don't know how the hell it's going to go, but I'd love to see how the hell it goes. And they can be a great experiment for everybody else around the country as to whether you can let everybody into your stadium and not have COVID run rampant or not. We'll see if they, you know, what kind of protocols they put in place and how they're able to execute that. And if they're able to keep their patrons safe. It should be a great experiment for everyone to take a look at and see if it's safe to let everyone back into these stadiums. That said, got a lot to talk about on the show today. Cam Newton signs a new deal to go back to New England. I'm actually excited for him. We'll talk about that here in a second. Also, I've got that list that I promised you. I'm feeling listy today, and you know what happens when I'm feeling listy? I start listing things. Told you I was going to have some free agent bargains for you. So we'll do that a little bit later on in the show. And Tom Brady signed an extension. I talked about him potentially doing that. You know what this means? They're going to get all of their stuff back. We'll talk about that later on in the show as well. And don't forget, Trey Lance. One of the big four quarterbacks in this draft class, depending on who you talk to. Some people, if you talk to the wrong person, like Chris Sims, he's not a part of the big four. Whatever the case may be, his pro day is today. We'll talk about what that pro day actually means and how he's viewed as a quarterback in the 2021 NFL draft. So let's get to the proceedings this evening. Don't want to hold you up. I'm here a little early because I got shit to do, and you should too. It's Friday. So let's get to our first segment of the day. And you already know. You already know what it is. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T. Double E. Let me open you up. get you thinking a little bit. So, Cam Newton. I want to start here. I got a couple of topics that I want to knock down in this Gem Droppin Session. So, I want to start with Cameron Newton. 1 year, $14 million deal, a far cry from the paltry 1 year deal he signed with New England last year. What was it? 1 year, like $4 million or whatever it was. Look, beggars can't be choosers. Last year, he just wanted a shot. New England was the only team that seemed to be willing to give him one, so he had to take what they were offering. You know, first of all, don't allow the numbers to kind of confuse you. We know that these deals aren't what they appear to be. It's just like looking in that side mirror and you see that little fine print at the bottom. Objects are closer than they appear in the mirror. These contracts aren't as they appear when they first show up on your mobile device. When you first saw that Cam Newton signed a deal, you saw 1 year, $14 million, and you said, oh, Cam got him a nice little payday. It's really a 1 year, $8 million deal. $6 million of that 14 is only going to be had through bonuses and the success of the Patriots in the regular season and the postseason. So if he doesn't meet certain escalators and certain achievements throughout the course of the season, it's really just a 1 year, $8 million deal, whatever the case may be. Cam Newton is back in New England, and that's what's important. I'm happy for him because if you watch I Am Athlete and you saw him talk, first and foremost, he had nothing but glowing things to say about the Patriots organization, Bill Belichick. And, you know, he was kind of campaigning to go back there. You could kind of read between the lines when you listen to him speak. He talked about Bill Belichick being cool as shit and being misunderstood, one of the most misunderstood guys in the league. He's not the first person to say that either. You know, a lot of people say Belichick's really funny and you got to get to know him. And I believe that we probably have painted this picture of Bill because when he shows up to do his pressers, he's short, he's succinct, he's an asshole a lot of times, sort of like Nick Saban. They're cut from the same cloth. They don't really want to deal with the media all that much. And so you don't really get to peer into the real Bill Belichick and see what he's like. And those who have played for him, they have nothing but respect and admiration for him. They usually have glowing things to say about him, and Cam Newton is no different. And he was politicking and he was campaigning to go back to New England. He said he enjoyed his time there and he would like to kind of finish the business that he started. He felt like there was unfinished business in New England. He's going to get that opportunity now. This isn't a guarantee that the Patriots still aren't actively looking. It's just a 1 year deal. Cam Newton is 32 years old. It's not like he's a spring chicken. I don't think that they view him as the long-term solution, nor should they. Thus, I wouldn't rule the Patriots out. Let's say, you know, I heard something else, and I'm going to bring this up right now as a matter of fact. Peter King. You know, I'm not a big Peter King fan, okay? But, you know, on the Peacock Network, Peter King was talking earlier, probably on Pro Football Talk, and he brought up this scenario where he talked to a 49ers insider, somebody within the organization, more likely than not. Peter King does have connections. And he said that this was presented to the staff, to the brass of the 49ers. How about we trade a second round pick for Sam Darnold and we bring him in here to compete with Jimmy G? So it wouldn't essentially be we're swapping out Jimmy G, for, you know, Sam Darnold for Jimmy G, and we're just going to give him the job. We're just going to push Jimmy G a bit just to see if we can't get him to take his game to another level. We feel like he's a little comfortable here. He's not doing all of the things that we need him to do. We need him to step his damn game up. And I don't think it's going to happen. I don't see the 49ers investing a second round pick just to light a fire under Jimmy Garoppolo. But it does speak to a larger point. They want to upgrade the position, and I talked about that this offseason. They want to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, despite what you've heard from John Lynch and how he continues to try to convince anybody that will listen that Jimmy G's their guy and they're happy. They want to upgrade the position. And so it wouldn't shock me in the least if Jimmy Garoppolo became available and New England went and swept him up quickly. They got the capital to do it from a cap situation standpoint. They've got every reason, because he's familiar with their system. He's had success there. Belichick never wanted to trade him. It makes a ton of sense that if he were to come available, they would go after him. And remember, the Patriots want to make sure they're not in the position they were in last year. They understand the quarterback climate that exists this year. It wasn't quite this way last year. And the cap wasn't the way that it is this year. It wasn't that way last year. Teams may be a little bit more aggressive in attacking quarterback needs because there are so many teams out there with them. So instead of waiting until July to see if Cam Newton's still available and then signing him, they're going to go ahead and make sure that worst case scenario, we'll go into the season with at least Cam Newton as our starter. Worst case scenario. We don't want to be in a Jarrett Stidham type of predicament where we got to scramble and shuffle our papers to try to find a guy like Cam Newton late before camp gets started. So I think they went ahead and put themselves in a position that if they don't land somebody else, at least we got Cam Newton. We got a fallback plan. But don't think for 1 second that them signing Cam Newton back on a 1-year deal is going to prohibit them from going out and being aggressive and trying to find the quarterback of the future or a guy that will give them a chance long term. And when I say long term, we could be talking the next 4 to 6 years. So, because I don't think they view Cam Newton as that. And they shouldn't view Cam Newton as that. So, good for Cam. I'm actually rooting for him. I'm conflicted because on one hand, I don't want to see the Patriots win shit. I don't want them to win a damn thing. But on the other hand, I want to see Cam do well. I don't know if both things can coexist with one another because when he plays well, usually they win. When he doesn't play well, they lose. So I'm kind of torn and conflicted, but I want to see him do well. I've always been a massive Cam Newton fan, and I really want to see Cam do well in New England. So I'm rooting for him. I guess I'm going to do the fantasy football thing, which is why I don't play fantasy football, where I root for a specific player, but don't root for the team, which is really hard to do because usually, especially when you're talking the quarterback position, the success of the quarterback is usually directly tied to the success of the team. So anyway, I digress. Cam Newton back in New England on a 1-year, $14 million deal, and I'm happy for him. And let's see what happens with that situation in New England. I don't think they're done at the quarterback position. Doesn't mean they'll sign someone, but I think they'll definitely still be aggressive out in those streets looking to bring in another guy, especially if Jimmy Garoppolo somehow comes available from San Francisco. Also, in this Gem Droppin Session, I wanted to go back to last episode's show and talk about the top 23 list. And there were a couple of guys that have already been snatched off of that list before we've even gotten a free agency, and not because of the franchise tag. Obviously, the tag deadline had come and gone by last episode's show, so we didn't have to worry about that. But my number 13 free agent on my top 23 list, linebacker Matt Milano, was signed by the Bills, re-signed by the Buffalo Bills. And remember, because the new league year hasn't started, you can only re-sign with your old team. You can't sign with a new team. So you're not going to see anybody signing with a team that they weren't with previously, which is why Cam Newton can re-sign with the Patriots and Matt Milano can re-sign with the Buffalo Bills. You can sign your own. You just can't sign anybody else's stuff because their contracts haven't technically expired until the start of the new league year. So you can always negotiate with your own players. You can't negotiate with anybody else's, in case anybody was wondering how that works. But Matt Milano back in Buffalo, there was always the off chance that if they didn't franchise tag him, they could work something out. I thought that he was going to be gone. I thought this was one of those situations where they just realized we can't re-sign everybody. We want him back badly, but he's going to make a ton of money out on the market, and we don't want to franchise tag him. So we're going to just have to allow Matt Milano to leave. But the intention was always to re-sign him. When you talk to any Bills fan, I've listened to multiple Bills fans speak about Matt Milano and his contractual situation, it's always been that they've wanted him back. And there was always this off chance that he could be back. I didn't think he was going to be back. It was a bit of a surprise when I saw that they re-signed him and he decided to go back to Buffalo. I know one thing for sure. He likes it in Buffalo. He enjoys playing for the Bills organization, and they were the team that gave him a chance. And a lot of times players, unless it's been miserable, you usually have a bit of loyalty to the team that gave you an opportunity. You know, you look around the league and everybody's got a chance to draft you, but this team in particular saw fit to pull the trigger on you when they did, and you're forever indebted to them for that. And so there's always this hint of loyalty, like if this team really wants me, I want to be here. If they extend something and I like it, I'm going to take it. And that 4-year, $44 million deal, which is right in the wheelhouse that we thought it was going to take to get Matt Milano back, was extended to him. And he's back in Buffalo, man. He's a hell of a football player. I would have loved to have seen him hit the market because I really felt like my football team was going to be interested in signing him. But Matt Milano off of the market, one of my top 23 gone. Cam Newton, another one of my top 23. He was number 20 on my list. Also snatched off the list, as we just talked about his 1-year deal going back to New England. So that list is trimming right before our very eyes, before free agency even gets started. And I do want to add another nugget in here that I talked about Tim Patrick last night on the Washington Football Report live, and how he would be a contingency plan for me if Washington couldn't get their hands on Corey Davis. Well, I've done some more homework. I've done some digging on some of these free agents that I'm interested in, and Tim Patrick is going to be tendered by the Denver Broncos. He, Philip Lindsay, and a few others are restricted free agents, and they're going to be tendered. Those are good football players, and if you can tender them, and I think I saw the numbers come out today. I think I saw that it's either Field Yates or it was Pelissero from the NFL Network, one of the other. They put out the free agents tender list for how much it costs to tender a guy at a first round level, second round, so on and so forth. So he's going to be tendered. I don't know at what level Tim Patrick's going to be tendered at, but nobody's giving up any draft compensation to wrestle Tim Patrick away from the Broncos. He's a young player that I think is ascending. He balled out for the Broncos last year with all their injuries at the receiver position, and they don't want to allow him to walk. I don't blame them. I would have been really interested in Tim Patrick. Looks like he's going to be back in Denver, so I wanted to clean that up from last night's show. Don't think he's going to be available for anyone to poach away. He would have been a guy that would have been on my next list that I'm about to talk about, because I feel like he's a bargain had he been available in free agency, but because not a lot of people know who Tim Patrick is or what he did for the Broncos this past year. So those are the kind of guys that I would be looking to get after the dust settles, smoke clears, and we'll talk about that a little bit more at greater detail and lengths as we get to our next segment on the show. But before we do that, I do have a super chat that I want to clean up real quick. This one is from my guy, Fat American. Thank you for the super chat, Fat American. Greatly appreciate you. Fat American writes, this offseason already feels a lot different and more calculated than previous off seasons. A bit boring, yes, but it means the front office is doing their job. Well, nothing has happened yet. And this feels a lot like last offseason. If you recall, when Ron first got here, he didn't do anything. He didn't extend anybody. He didn't do anything because he didn't know any of the players. The only thing that they did was they started cutting bait. They got rid of dead weight, the players that they knew they didn't want to come back. And so they moved on from all of those guys, the Josh Normans and all of those guys that were on the roster that we knew weren't going to be back. They've done that this year. They moved on from Alex Smith. So I think it's kind of similar to what it was last year. I think it's going to be a little bit more on the aggressive side in terms of free agent acquisitions. Last year, the only guy that they got early in the process was Kendall Fuller. Everybody else was pretty much lower tier free agents. I think you're going to see some lower tier free agents. I really do. Ron Rivera, and I meant to mention this last night, and I forgot to mention this, but I'm going to say it now. Ron Rivera spoke about the linebacker position during his presser, and he talked about how he liked what they got out of Kevin Pierre-Louis. I think he liked it. I don't think he loved what they got out of him, but he said he would love to have him back or somebody like him. I don't know if there are any guys that particularly jump out at me as a weak side linebacker in free agency, but I know that they are actively looking for some deals, and not the kind that you get on day one or day two or even the first week. I think they're looking for some deals that you get on the second week and the third week of free agency. And there will be some guys out there, and I'm going to name a few of them on my list of bargain basement deals. So stay tuned for that. But I can't say that it's been a boring offseason because the offseason hasn't really even started yet. It doesn't start until next Wednesday. That's when things get kicked off. That's when the new league year starts. That's when money is going to start being spent. And so once that tampering period begins on Monday, you'll start to hear big names coming off the board. They'll already be pretty much agreed to deals. They'll have already essentially verbally agreed to a deal, and then they'll sign that deal on Wednesday. We've seen strange things happen, like a few years ago, the linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings, Anthony Barr, agreed to a deal with the Jets, and then when it was time to sign, he decided to go back to Minnesota, got cold feet, and went back to the Vikings. So we've seen these verbal deals go awry from time to time, but for the most part, these verbal deals pretty much put these players in particular situations. So we'll start hearing about that, and that's when the offseason really gets underway. So hard for me to say it's been boring to this point because it really hasn't gotten started. If they don't do much in free agency, then I think you could say that it's been a boring offseason. But I think they're going to be really aggressive, and I think they're going to make some moves early and often, much like last year. They made a move early, and then they kind of sat back, but they were very aggressive in terms of the amount of free agents signed. I think they're going to have more quality free agents this year in terms of the name and what you expect, but I do think there will be some quantity involved as well, where we'll get, a few guys on a couple of prove-it deals, 1 year deal, 2 year deal, to bring them in like we did last year. We had a bunch of guys on 1 year, 2 year deals to prove it, and a lot of those guys did in fact prove it for Washington last season. So I think they had so much success with that a season ago that they're going to try to duplicate that, maybe to a lesser degree, but I think you're going to see them try and do that. Got another super chat. This is from my guy Fat American as well. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Fat American. Greatly appreciate you, my man. Fat American writes, I meant off seasons during Dan's tenure. Last season was different, but it just seems like Ron is completely in control of the roster. It does seem like Ron is in complete control, and I mentioned that last night, that's all the more reason he needs to be aggressive this year, because we can't predict the future. He's, to me, got a firm grasp of control now because of the success of his first season. If that were to go to hell in a handbasket in year 2, Dan could be meddlesome again. So I really feel like he needs to take advantage of this offseason. And not to say that, I got to make sure I go out and be uber aggressive because I don't know what the future holds. But you've got an opportunity to really take a monumental step in a division that's not all that great. I think he'd be very remiss if he didn't take an opportunity to try and make something happen. Calvin Krim, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Calvin Krim writes, hey Luke, Quan Alexander cut by the Saints, good fit? No. Obviously he's an athletic linebacker, but this is the second straight year he's coming off of a major injury where it required surgery. He's not the same linebacker that he once was, which is why the 49ers were desperately trying to get out of his contract the year prior before they traded him. He tore his Achilles, I want to say, in the Super Bowl, or it was during the regular season, and they couldn't trade him. They were looking to trade him at the trade deadline last year, or 2 years ago, where the 49ers on their way to the Super Bowl, because they drafted a young guy that was balling out of control out of Arkansas, and so they didn't really need Quan Alexander and the money that they were paying him. He gets injured, so now they couldn't trade him. They had to hold on to him. Once he got healthy, that's when they traded him to the Saints. He goes to New Orleans, he gets hurt again, and that's why they ended up cutting him. So again, Quan Alexander isn't the guy that he once was, once upon a time in Tampa Bay. I'm not a big Quan Alexander fan now. I was before, and so I'm good on Quan Alexander. But maybe, I don't really necessarily know if I want an aging linebacker coming off of his second straight season that ended in a major knee injury. I don't know, or leg injury. I don't know if I necessarily want to sign up for that. I'm all for the guy coming off of, an injury, looking to prove himself, that you can get for a cheap deal because it's a low risk proposition. But I like the young guys coming off of a situation like that, not an older guy. So no, I'm good on Quan Alexander, especially with a deep linebacker draft class like the one we're going to see this year in the draft. I just don't understand why anybody would be looking to overspend for a free agent linebacker unless you feel like this is the guy, which Matt Milano for me was one of those types of players. Unless you're getting a real good deal on a player, I just go in the draft and get cheap labor for a young guy coming in looking to prove himself. There are so many good athletes at the linebacker position this year. I really wouldn't be over aggressive in free agency looking to fill any voids at linebacker. And Fat American, thank you for your third super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Fat American writes, and that's what excites me as a fan, and it should. The fact that Ron is in total control right now, this coach-centric approach seems to be going really smoothly to this point. He was able, and I talked about this last night, he was able to get rid of Dwayne Haskins, which was Dan's draft pick. He was able to bring in all the front office guys that he wanted. He was able to move on from one of the longer tenured front office guys left in the building in Kyle Smith. So it all is kind of leading towards Ron Rivera being the central figure in the organization and having total control. Again, I don't know how long it's going to last, but I'm excited about that as well. Fat American, fourth super chat. Really appreciate you. Fat American writes, feel like in previous regimes, we would have kept Alex Smith, maybe kept Josh Norman, and would have overpaid for duds and lowballed studs, digging Ron. And that's the thing that if you're a fan, you have to feel really enthused about. I don't think Josh Norman would have been back regardless of who was there. But I think you're right about Alex Smith. If Bruce were here, I think Alex Smith would have been back. They would have paid him the money because he wouldn't have wanted to admit he made a mistake. So, things like that, I don't think you have to worry about with Ron. And I feel good about that. And I do love the fact that they're trying to keep their own. And that's something else that we haven't done enough of over the years, and I'm excited about that as well. You said Quan is 26. I didn't realize he was that young. I would love to see when his birthday is. He'll probably be 27, but that is really young. That is actually really young. However, the two knee injuries do concern me. But 26 is actually really young. So I retract that last statement. I thought he was probably closer to 30. I thought he was 29 or something like that. He feels like he's been in the league forever. The fact that he's had a whole rookie contract with the Buccaneers, signed a new contract with the 49ers, although he didn't make it through that whole entire contract, got traded to New Orleans, feels like an entire career has already transpired with Quan Alexander, having played for 3 teams in about a 6 year, it feels like a 5 or 6 year span, yet he's only 26. So, damn, that it just feels like a lot longer, but 26 is very young. But the two knee injuries are concerning for me, especially for a guy that relies on speed as much as Quan Alexander does. But again, if I'm a team out there and he's able to prove that he's healthy, I wouldn't mind kicking the tires at all. He's a guy that you don't have to move on right now. He's still recovering from his surgery. So you don't have to move on him right now. See what you get in the draft. If you don't feel like you got enough in the draft, Quan Alexander should still be available. And if you feel like you need more depth, then you go and sign him. So I wouldn't have a problem with doing it that way, but I don't necessarily want to sign up for him right now prior to the draft. If that makes any sense. Thank you for that, though. I didn't know he was 26. So let me get to my next segment, but before I do that, got a promo for you. So we've talked about Manscaped. This Louie T Network podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. I've talked about the products very profusely. The ones that tickle my fancy in particular are the Crop Preserver, which is the ball deodorant. All right, this is my go-to after I get out of the shower. Thoroughly towel off the berries, okay? Get them nice and dry. Put this ball deodorant on, and I've been a huge advocate of don't wait until your balls get musty. Take care of it beforehand. Again, like I've referenced, you don't wait until you get musty to put on deodorant. You use deodorant as a preventative measure. You look to prevent yourself from getting musty. Same thing with your balls. Don't wait till they start to stink to apply the crop preserver. Keep it in good shape with this crop preserver, the ball deodorant. And then if you need a little touch up, this is where the crop reviver comes into play. As I told you, I got a morning workout. Every single morning that I do, I get up, the first thing I do is I get my little 8-minute workout in, and it just gets the body going, helps the metabolism speed up a bit. And sometimes it can get a little sweaty. I'm not going to lie to you. And that's where this crop reviver comes into play. A couple squirts, and I'm back like cooked crack. So again, Manscaped and this perfect package that they have for you includes the crop preserver, the crop reviver. It also comes with this 3.0 lawn mower. And like I've talked about with this is a game changer because it prevents nicks and it gets the job done. I mean, it's mowing everything down in sight. And I told you, you can use it anywhere on your body that you see fit. They also, in this perfect package, add in a shirt, underwear, and I also forgot to mention this the other day, but they also add this nifty little pouch right here, this bag that they also give you as well to keep your stuff in. So, and I use it to keep all my products in there. So I love it. I think it's a great purchase. You won't be sorry. You won't regret it. Go to manscaped.com. All right. Manscaped.com. Use the promo code LouieT for 20% off plus free shipping. That's manscaped.com. Use the promo code LouieT for 20% off and you'll get free shipping as well. You want to unlock your confidence? Use the right tools for the job. And remember, your balls will thank you. So let's get to our next segment. It's the list. And when I start feeling listy, I start listing things. And I told you, if it's a big list, probably going to be 23 items. If it's a smaller list, it's going to be comprised of 7 items. And we're doing a smaller list today. Free agent bargains on this show. So these are guys that I feel like not going to force you to break the bank. As a matter of fact, you know, some of the guys that I name here, maybe guys you have to get a little sooner than you would like. But most of these guys are going to be dust settle, smoke clears, second, third week of free agency. They're still around and they're looking for a 1-year prove it deal or maybe a 2-year deal. I really like this list that I've comprised here for you of these bargains. These are the guys that aren't household names. If you're not watching these teams, you don't really know specifically what these players are, what they bring to the table, and what the upside for these guys are. And so I'm really excited about this list, and I'm excited for the opportunity for some of these players. Now, what they do with it is on them. And look, the reason that this list exists is because you're usually looking for a guy that is a low risk, high reward type of proposition where you're not going to have to commit to a guy long term. It's not going to be a ton of money. If it works, great for you. You get a great year of service, and maybe it's the start of a beautiful marriage and you guys can re-up after the season, or it doesn't work out. You can either cut ties with him before the start of the season because it's not a lot of guaranteed money involved, or you could not be happy with what you get throughout the course of the season, and after the year's done, you guys can just part ways. He can walk one way, you can go in the other direction and you wipe your hands clean of the situation. So these are usually the kind of deals that I'm looking for and situations that I'm looking for in these types of bargains. So I talk about in free agency all the time, all the expensive, high-priced items, the items that are in season that they're looking to move at a very, very high clip. They're at the front of the store. You don't have to walk in and walk to the back to find those items. They want those to be right in your face. They want you to want to catch your eye with those. They're going to cost you a pretty penny, but they're the latest and greatest in fashion, and you're going to feel good about the purchase because you're going to get something that's name brand. Now, as you get towards the back of the store, that might be some last season stuff, or that might be something that we've got an abundance of. We couldn't move all of it, and now we're looking to get rid of it because we need floor space. It's in the way, and so we're going to reduce the price. Maybe it's not in anymore. Maybe people aren't wearing this anymore. Just like you see that James Harden Houston Rockets jersey, they're trying to move that. They don't have any use for it anymore. He's no longer a Houston Rocket. Maybe somebody will buy a bunch of those up. It'll be a throwback commodity one day. But right now, the store looks at it as an eyesore. Can't do anything with the 13 Rockets jersey. He doesn't play there anymore. Hey, slap an orange tag or a pink tag on that thing, move it to the back of the store, and let's get rid of it. That's what these bargain deals are. Now, the first two guys that I'm going to mention don't fit that criteria per se. All right. My first free agent bargain is an unrestricted free agent right tackle, Daryl Williams. He checks in at number 7 for me on my list. Former Buffalo Bills right tackle, drafted by the Carolina Panthers, I think in the 3rd or 4th round out of Oklahoma. Really didn't expect too much out of Daryl Williams. He goes to Buffalo, and I thought he was the savior of the AFC wildcard weekend game between the Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. If you recall, Josh Allen had a very careless fumble at the end of that ball game that could have resulted in the Indianapolis Colts having a chance to take the lead. Daryl Williams pounces on that fumble. Like I said, felt like he saved the day, but he was an outstanding player for them. Forget about him saving the day in that particular game. How about this guy saving the day at right tackle for them? They were expecting Ty Nsekhe to man up right tackle for them. They were wrong, and Daryl Williams came in and he salvaged that spot for them and was able to play some bang-up ball. And I think he's parlayed that into what could ultimately be a lucrative payday for him. It's not going to be top of the tackle market money, and that's why I feel like he's a bargain. When everybody's talking about tackles that are available in free agency, they're going to go straight to the 2 Kansas City Chiefs tackles that got released in Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher. Both of those guys are coming off of injuries, but they've also been really good players when they've been healthy. Everybody's going to go to Russell Okung. Everybody's going to go to Alejandro Villanueva, the ex-Pittsburgh Steelers tackle. Nobody's talking about Daryl Williams. And to me, he might be the best value of all of those names I just mentioned. He's 28 years old now. He'll be 29 by the time the season starts. Sign him to a 3-year deal, right around $10 million, and feel really good about your purchase. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes back to Buffalo. He played so well for them. But if he doesn't, somebody could get themselves a really good tackle here for not a ton of money. So to me, one of the better free agent bargains at the tackle position is Daryl Williams, right tackle of the Buffalo Bills. You check in at number 6. And for me, this is a guy, and again, I told you the first 2 on the list don't quite fit the criteria. Here's why this one doesn't fit the criteria. He's a restricted free agent. I generally don't like to fool around with restricted free agents because the team has control over the team that he's with currently has control over him as a restricted free agent. When you're a restricted free agent, they can put a tender on you if they really like what you've done for them and they don't want to lose you, or they can have the right of first refusal, meaning you can sign this guy to an offer sheet. They have a chance to match, and if they match, Well, he's back with them. So they could essentially test the free agent market and the value for that player. And if they feel like the value that he's gotten on the free agent market is something they're willing to pay, they can then match and have that guy back. So I tend to stay away from restricted free agents. That said, cornerback Darius Williams, formerly of the Los Angeles Rams, is the next player on my list, checking in at number 6. This is a guy that, to me, balled out of control in 2020. Every time I watched the Rams defense, I was so impressed with Darius Williams. And I said to myself, where did this guy come from? And watching him play and then putting his age, he's 26 now, he'll be 27 when the season starts. He's going right into the prime of his career. He's playing with confidence. Now, it's a guy that I think the Rams ultimately, they're going to want back. And it's not going to take a ton of money to get him back. I think they're going to tender this guy. If they don't, he is a very intriguing free agent option because, again, I don't think it's going to cost you a ton of money. And there are other options that are going to cost you a lot more, like Ronald Darby or Shaquille Griffin, that are going to be more along the lines of, top of the market type of money for the cornerback position. Maybe even Dick Sherman may cost you a pretty penny if you're into that type of thing. He's a little bit older than I would like, but a guy like Darius Williams, not a lot of people understand how well he played for the Rams last year. And I don't think he's going to command a ton of money on the free agent market. And so maybe William Jackson commands a little bit more money and you don't want to pay that. Maybe the Green Bay corner, Kevin King, commands a pretty penny out there. You don't want to pay that. Then there's a guy like Darius Williams sitting back there waiting for someone to give him an opportunity to start in this league. He was part of a platoon in LA with the Rams. It was Troy Hill, who is also a free agent. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey and Darius Williams. Williams is looking for an opportunity to start. I feel like J.C. Jackson of the New England Patriots is in a similar boat, but the Patriots aren't going to allow J.C. Jackson to walk away. He's a restricted free agent as well, which is why I don't even talk about him anymore because they're going to tender him. I think the Rams are going to do the same thing with Darius Williams, but if they don't, he's a guy that I would definitely be interested in if my team is in need of a starting caliber corner. If he is tendered, I talked about this last night, always have a contingency plan in place. I never do anything without having a contingency plan set up. So with that said, I would take him out and I would insert unrestricted free agent cornerback Jason Verrett in his place if he's not available as a bargain deal this offseason in free agency. He's 29 years old. He'll be 30 before the start of the season. So not necessarily where you would like to have your cornerback be from an age standpoint. But when you look at the history of Jason Verrett and you understand that this guy's tires have a lot of tread left on him. He hasn't played as much football as you would expect a 30-year-old in this league to have played. Because of all of the injuries, that's something you have to take into consideration, which is why he's going to be a great bargain deal, because he is a guy that has had some injury concerns throughout his career. And that's an understatement. But he did play phenomenal football last year for the San Francisco 49ers. And because of that, I think there will be some interest in Jason Verrett. Maybe the 49ers want him back. Maybe they don't. But somebody else out there that needs a veteran. Yeah, I remember last year, the Indianapolis Colts signing Xavier Rhodes, who is a free agent. And that's another name that may go to the top of the free agent list this year at the cornerback position. They signed him to a one-year deal. He was low on confidence, but high on ability, and they knew he was looking for a get-back year and he was going to be highly motivated. So what did they do? They signed him. He had an outstanding year. He's going to try to cash in one final time and get a good deal. Jason Verrett is in a similar position. He's got an opportunity to maybe go out here and 1 year for somebody, sign a one-year deal, show them that you've got a lot of football and you're no ordinary 30-year-old corner, that you've got 3-4 really good years of top-notch football left in you. And if you can do that, you may be able to parlay that into a 2-3 year deal worth some good money. So Jason Verrett is a guy that I feel like if Darius Williams isn't available, Jason Verrett would be another bargain that you could sub in for Darius Williams. Going to my number 5 best bargain of free agency. It's unrestricted free agent wide receiver Keelan Cole out of Jacksonville. This is a guy that I've always liked. After his first year in Jacksonville playing, I thought that this guy has some talent. And every now and again, we'll see one of these undrafted rookie wide receivers come in, make an impact, and continue to grow as he gets more and more opportunities. Keelan Cole has done that in Jacksonville, so much so that the Jaguars tendered him as a restricted free agent last season. So he was going to be a free agent last year. They didn't want to allow him to walk away because he had been so productive for them. They slapped him with a tender offer last year that kept him in Jacksonville for an additional year. Now he's an unrestricted free agent at the age of 27. He'll be 28 when the season starts. He's one of these guys that, to me, if you're looking for a really good, consistent third option in your offense, Keelan Cole is the answer that you're looking for. He's got experience playing out wide. He's got experience playing inside as a slot receiver. I think that's where he's best utilized. He wins one-on-one and he separates against man-to-man coverage. He knows how to sit down in zone coverage. He's got tremendous hands. He made one of the best catches of the season last year, a one-hand grab. This is a guy that, to me, it might have been 2 years ago. This is a guy that I just think has a lot of potential, and if he's in the right system and they can unlock it, he could turn into, the next Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman type inside in the slot that just wins and is kicking everybody's ass. So Keelan Cole for me is a guy that I don't think a lot of people understand how good he is, because he played in Jacksonville for a number of years, and it's easy to get lost in the abyss that is Jacksonville. And so I think if you are watching close enough and you need a third option, Keelan Cole can fill that void for you, and you won't have to break the bank to get it done. There are a bunch of guys that are available. I told you this is the deepest position in free agency this year is wide receiver. So if you need a receiver, there are plenty of different flavors for whatever you're looking for. You want a speed guy? Plenty of those available. You're looking for a possession receiver? Plenty of those available. You're looking for a reliable veteran target? Plenty of those available. You're looking for a guy that used to be a superstar, now looking for a chance to prove himself again? T.Y. Hilton and A.J. Greens, there are plenty of those available as well. Whatever you need, it's available in free agency. But after all of those guys are gone, there's going to be guys like Keelan Cole sitting there waiting for an opportunity. I would go after Keelan Cole if you need a third option at the receiver position. And again, it shouldn't cost you a whole hell of a lot of money to do it either. My number 4 bargain free agent this offseason is unrestricted free agent tight end Gerald Everett of the Los Angeles Rams. To me, the top 2 tight ends in this free agency crop are Hunter Henry, and then it's Jonnu Smith. Those are the 2 that just jump off the page at me right away. But after those guys, there's not a lot out there that gets you excited. I like Anthony Firkser of the Tennessee Titans as well. Jonnu Smith, former Tennessee Titan. Anthony Firkser, former Tennessee Titan. Firkser is more of a pass catcher, not much of a blocker in the run game. But if you're looking for a pass catching option, Anthony Firkser is another guy that was close to making this list. He was right on the outside. I like Anthony Firkser a lot, but I like Gerald Everett more. Okay, big target, athletically gifted. Sean McVay drafted him to be his new Jordan Reed. Remember, Sean McVay came from Washington, where he had been exposed to Jordan Reed, wanted a guy with a similar skill set. Gerald Everett is a great value version of Jordan Reed. Not as quick, not as shifty, but very gifted at the tight end position as a pass catcher. Don't really feel like he was truly utilized in that offense. They had a bunch of targets at the tight end position, including Tyler Higbee. So I don't know if he ever really got the exposure that maybe his talents deserve. That said, he's 26 years old now. He'll be 27 by the time the season starts. Really good big body target at the tight end position, can catch, can make something happen after the catch. I think there's a lot of untapped potential here with Gerald Everett. You know, at the tight end position, everybody's looking for somebody that can create a mismatch. I'm not saying that he's Darren Waller or he's any of these guys that have emerged as, you know, difference makers at the tight end position, but you get him in a situation where they start to take advantage of what he does. He could be Robert Tonyan in the right system. Okay, a guy that just evolves out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you look up, he's got 11 touchdown grabs. Gerald Everett could be that for somebody, you know. So again, all about fit and how you utilize him. But Gerald Everett is another one of these guys that I think, if given an opportunity in the right system with a quarterback that's looking for him, he could turn out to be a steal for somebody in this free agency crop. And again, the tight end position to begin with isn't an inexpensive one. So you're not going to have to break the bank for him. And he's not the first guy or even the second guy that most teams will be looking at for free agency tight ends. He's going to be probably the third guy in line. So I think there is a deal here to be had that's going to give you some bargain type of vibes with Gerald Everett. And I really think that he's a guy that can give you some good value in this free agent crop. I go to my number 3 free agent bargain, and it is unrestricted free agent wide receiver John Ross, formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals. And for me, when I think about bargains, I'm always looking for the failed first round pick, or as you guys out there like to call them, bust. Okay, I'm always looking for the guy, for whatever reason, didn't work out as a former first round pick at his last stop. There's a reason he was selected in the first round. There's undeniable talent. And for whatever reason, he didn't work. I want to give him an opportunity to resurrect his career. And those guys are usually highly motivated, because when you don't work out as a first round pick in your first locale, you're usually on borrowed time at that point. You don't get a re-up from your first team and it didn't go well, and you're not highly thought of after that, you got 1 or 2 more stops, and if it doesn't work, you're out of the league. Okay? You can easily be Josh Doxson. Just like that. In the league 1 minute, out of the league the next. And so when I look at John Ross, I don't like the way it ended in Cincinnati, and I can't tell you why it ended the way that it ended in Cincinnati. He wanted to play. They didn't want to play him. For whatever reason, it didn't end well. He didn't get on the field. They didn't feel like he added any value to their offense, which it's hard for me to stomach and fathom that. But they had talent at receiver, and they didn't feel like he added anything, so they didn't put him on the field a ton. He wanted to play. He wanted them to trade him. You remember we talked about it on the podcast. Just trade me. If you're not going to give me an opportunity, let me play somewhere else. They didn't trade him. So I'm looking at John Ross at 25 years old. He'll be 26 by the time the season gets underway. I'm looking at John Ross and I'm saying, this has a chance to really be a tremendous, low risk, high reward proposition for someone. I mean, a signee that knocks it out of the ballpark. Get you 53 catches for 813 yards and 7 touchdowns. And you're like, whoa, John Ross was out here eating. You know, I could see him doing that for somebody on a 1-year, $5.5 million deal. And the base is only $2.5 million. And it's $3 million in bonuses and escalators and things of that nature and incentives. John Ross is a guy that I think just needs an opportunity. And again, he's had injury concerns in his past. He's also been a guy that didn't have a ton of experience at the receiver position coming into the league, but everybody fell in love with the 40 time. All of that is great. We know he can run. He can take the top off of the defense. You need speed on your offense. John Ross could be exactly, what the doctor ordered. I'm so intrigued by John Ross. The talent is there. He's got speed. He can run. He's a playmaker. I told you, I always go back to the start of the 2018. It might have been the 2019 season. I think it was the 2019 season. I always go back to the start of that season. John Ross getting out of the gate, tearing shit up. I think his first 2 games of that season. First game of the season was against Seattle, and I think he might have had over 200 yards receiving in that game. If not, he was damn close. And he tore them a new asshole, and they almost went to Seattle and stole one early in that season. And the next game, he followed it up with another strong performance. And I'm like, look at John Ross. He's figured it out. And then he had another good game, and then he got hurt. And then, kind of shit went downhill from there. But of all of these guys, John Ross is the one I'm the most intrigued by. And so I think somebody should be interested in giving him a 1-year deal to see if he can resurrect his career or not. Number 2, best free agent bargains of this offseason is unrestricted free agent running back Marlon Mack. Return of the Mack. Oh, yeah. It's a shame what happened to Marlon Mack in 2020 because he was on pace to get a nice payday. He was the lead back in Indianapolis. They had just drafted Jonathan Taylor, so they were going to have this 2-headed monster, but he was going to be the lead head of that 2-headed monster, and he gets injured in week 1. Tears his ACL, done for the season, and just like that, Jonathan Taylor was thrusted into the starting role, essentially. And the thing that sucks about it for Marlon Mack is here you are, 25 years old, ready to explode onto the NFL scene, get your first real big payday. He wasn't a first-round pick. And now you're injured and you're damaged goods, and nobody's even talking about Marlon Mack. In a normal year, if he's not coming off of an injury, when we start talking running backs that are available in free agency, we're not talking about just Aaron Jones. We're not talking about Chris Carson or Mark Ingram, who just signed with the Texans on a 1-year deal. We're not talking about all these other guys that are going to be available. We're talking about Marlon Mack. After Aaron Jones, the next guy off your tongue is Marlon Mack. But because he sustained this injury, out of sight, out of mind, nobody's talking about Marlon Mack. The guy is dumb talented. You talk about speed, he's got it in spades. Every time he touches it, it's got a chance to be a home run. But now coming off of major knee surgery, and you're at a position where people feel like they come a dime a dozen, all of a sudden now Marlon Mack has little to no value. And I'm looking around saying, if you need a home run threat, if you got a bunch of big burly backs and you need one home run threat in your backfield, why not give Marlon Mack a call? 1 year, $3 million deal is probably all it will take for him to prove himself that he's back healthy, 1, and that he can do it at a high level, 2. If I'm Seattle, I got a bunch of big physical backs. None of those guys are home run threats. You're losing Chris Carson potentially in free agency. Why not call Marlon Mack? Give you a spark on your offense at the running back position, and it won't cost you a ton to be able to do it. If I'm the Miami Dolphins, I always put the Miami Dolphins because I was so appalled at what they tried to put out there at the running back position. Even though Salvan Ahmed at times looked really good, I still was appalled at what they were doing at the running back position last year. Marlon Mack can help somebody. He's 25 years old. He's 25. And before this injury, he was performing like one of the better backs in the NFL. So it's amazing that all of a sudden, nobody's talking Marlon Mack. Like he's just disappeared off the face of the NFL landscape. Well, I'm here to revive his name and tell you that if you're out there and you may already have a couple of really good backs, it wouldn't hurt to add another to the mix in Marlon Mack. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, if I'm Jacksonville and I don't want to spend a high-level draft pick on Travis Etienne, Marlon Mack makes a ton of sense with James Robinson. It'd be a great thunder and lightning kind of combination. He's the physical power back, and then you got Marlon Mack coming in, spelling him to throw a change up and give you some speed. He'd fit in so many different locales in the NFL. And again, he's just looking to prove himself at 25 years old. So he's not looking for a 3-year deal. He's looking for a 1 year, 2.5, or 1 year, 3.5 At most, $4 million deal to prove himself. Come on, somebody's going to give it to him, and he's got a chance to blow up. So that's my number 2 best bargain. And then finally, my number 1 free agent bargain of the 2021 free agency crop is unrestricted free agent safety Malik Hooker. Again, I love the idea of salvaging a former first-round pick that has an abundance of talent that for whatever reason, it didn't work out where he was drafted. We know why it didn't work out for Malik Hooker in Indianapolis. He could not stay healthy, and they couldn't keep waiting on him to stay healthy. So they went ahead and they started drafting guys. And they drafted a kid from Michigan State a couple of years ago. And then they turned around and drafted the Blackman kid, Julian Blackman, this past year from Utah. Khari Willis is the guy that they drafted a couple of years ago out of Michigan State. They turned around and drafted Julian Blackman this past year, and he was outstanding. They've got safeties now. They don't need Malik Hooker anymore. He kept getting injured. They kept waiting on him, and they said, we can't keep waiting. And so if you can't play, the league will pass you by. Trust me. The best ability is availability. We talk about it all the time. Well, Malik Hooker simply wasn't available in Indianapolis. And when he finally was ready to be available, they had already moved on, okay? Life comes at you fast in this league. 1 minute, you're a Super Bowl champion. The next minute, you're released. 1 minute, you're on top of the world. You're a first-round pick. Next minute, you're on the streets looking for work. And that's where Malik Hooker is right now. But make no mistake about it, he's 24. He'll be 25 when the season starts. This guy was viewed as a can't-miss type of safety with unlimited range, ball skills, and playmaking ability. And he showcased flashes of that at times. I always think back to this incredible one-handed pick that he had in a game. I think it was against the Chargers. And I'm saying, man, this Malik Hooker kid has some talent. But talent don't mean jack shit if you can't stay healthy. And he hasn't been able to do that. So I think he's healthy now. I think he's dying for an opportunity to reestablish himself as the former first-round pick that he was and give himself a chance to actually have a life in a career in the NFL. Because again, as I just mentioned with John Ross, you don't get many opportunities after you flame out in your original destination as a first-round pick. I mean, nobody's talking about Malik Hooker. When we talk about the safety position, it's Anthony Harris, and then we talk about all the guys that got franchise tag, Justin Simmons and Marcus May, and all of those guys that got the franchise tag slapped on them this offseason. Well, nobody's talking about Malik Hooker, and for good reason, okay? He's far from a guy that is on anybody's radar. But what I'm saying is, dust settles, smoke clears. All these free agent safeties get their bread, and there'll be quite a few of them that hit the market and are able to get some money. But if I'm Washington and you feel like you need to upgrade the safety position, I'm not looking to do it with Anthony Harris. He's 30 years old, 29 years old. I'm not looking to do it with him. I'm not looking to pay him big money. I'm going to do the same thing I did last year with Kevin Pierre-Louis and Logan Thomas and J.D. McKissick and Cornelius Lucas. I'm going for the guy that has untapped potential or hasn't had a chance to start and just needs an opportunity. I'm looking for the young guy that's hungry, that's starving for an opportunity, and I'm going to give him a 1 or a 2 year deal. That's what I'm looking to do. Malik Hooker is the man for the job. I'm not saying he's going to turn out to be a beast. I'm not telling you he's going to be a stud. I'm not even telling you he's going to even be remotely close to the guy that we saw on film at Ohio State, ranging from red line to red line. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm just telling you that for a 1 year, $4 million deal, you can find out. And if you don't like what you see, by the time camp is over and the regular season is about to get underway, you can cut it. Teams do it all the time. but it's not going to cost you a lot to find out if Malik Hooker can do it at a high level or not. He's 25 years old. Somebody's going to give him a chance. And he could be just like the Raiders' first-round pick that ended up in Cleveland that played really well this year, and he's looking to get paid in free agency this offseason. The ex-West Virginia safety, I always forget his damn name. But sometimes you just need another opportunity to prove, hey, it wasn't me. It was the system or it was the team. I like Malik Hooker. Just like I said with John Ross, another failed first-round pick. I'm very intrigued by these guys. I want Washington to sign both of them, Malik Hooker and John Ross. I don't think they will, but I want them to. So that's my list. That is my free agency bargain list. Number 7, unrestricted free agent right tackle Daryl Williams. He's 28 right now. He'll be 29 when the season starts. Number 6 is restricted free agent cornerback Darius Williams, formerly of the Los Angeles Rams. He's 26. He'll be 27 when the season starts. If he is tendered by the Rams, which I anticipate he will be, then that shifts to unrestricted free agent cornerback Jason Barrett, who's 29. He will be 30 when the season gets underway. Number 5 is unrestricted free agent wide receiver Keelan Cole, formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's 27. He'll be 28 when the season gets underway. I think he will be a really good third option for some team out there. Number 4, unrestricted free agent tight end Gerald Everett. He's 26. He'll be 27 by the time the season gets underway, formerly of the Los Angeles Rams. Ton of talent there. I think if he goes to the right system, he could blow up. Number 3, unrestricted free agent wide receiver John Ross, formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals, former first-round pick of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's 25. He'll be 26 when the season gets underway. If nothing else, we know the guy can run. Everybody needs speed. I want to see where he ends up and what he does with this next opportunity, and it's not going to cost you a lot of money to kick the tires. Number 2, unrestricted free agent running back Marlon Mack, formerly of the Indianapolis Colts. It's a shame what happened to him in 2020 with the torn ACL that ended his season before it even really got started. And he's 25 years old. He was ascending in this league at the running back position. He goes from going into a contract year and balling to now an afterthought that nobody is even talking about. Still 25 years old with a ton of talent, coming off of an injury. Someone's going to give him an opportunity. If he can get back to the pre-injury form, Marlon Mack has a chance to make himself some good money with a good performance on a one-year deal in 2021. What team is going to give him that opportunity? We shall see. And then finally, my number 1 best free agency bargain is unrestricted free agent safety Malik Hooker, formerly of the Indianapolis Colts. Like I mentioned with John Ross, failed former first-round pick. He's 24 years old now. He'll be 25 by the time the season gets underway. Guy has an abundance of talent. Injuries have derailed his career to this point, but he's healthy now. And I think if given an opportunity, he may be able to prove that he can play at a high level in this league. I just looked at the comment section. Craig Smith, don't know if this is true or not. I believe my man Craig. He usually he doesn't steer me wrong. I'm going to check my phone just to check to see if I can see it really quick. And there he is accurate. He says Bills just re-signed Daryl Williams. I thought they would re-sign him. Doesn't surprise me at all. I mentioned that I thought that they would want him back. 3-year extension, locking him up. The Bills are a smart organization. They do things the right way. He played well for them. They know his value, and it's not going to cost them a ton. You deal with the known commodities, the devil you know, then the devil you don't know. Everybody's telling you that this is a great draft to get you a tackle, but you don't know if he's going to come in and help you win right now. Daryl Williams can help them right now, and they're ready to win. They were in the AFC Championship a season ago. So they're not looking to have a guy come in and have them take a step back because he can't get it done at the right tackle position. They need a guy to jump in there and get it done. Daryl Williams has proven to them he can, so that makes a ton of sense for me. So the Bills, they get it. They just get it. They brought Matt Milano back. It's about keeping the guys that you know can get it done for you and allowing the guys, and they've done that this offseason. They allowed a couple of those defensive linemen that were costing them a little bit more than they were comfortable with. They let those guys go. We can replace them. They're replaceable parts. Matt Milano isn't a replaceable part. Daryl Williams performed like a guy that was irreplaceable. So keep them. The Bills are a smart organization. I love Brandon Beane. I love the way that organization is run. Sean McDermott's a hell of a coach. They do it the right way in Buffalo, and so I'm not surprised one bit that he was locked up. But again, you see where I was going with that. They understood that he was going to command some attention, but it wasn't going to cost a team out there looking for a really solid right tackle a ton of money. So they went ahead and did the smart thing before free agency got underway. Lock that guy up. Don't allow him to test the market. I got a super chat here from Calvin Krim. I think this is actually Calvin's second one, and it is double up. Thank you for the super chat and doubling up, Calvin Krim, who writes, love your take on getting Corey Davis and John Ross, but the draft is so loaded with wide receivers that it might be an overkill. Quan turns 27 in August. You're spot on. I thought he would probably be turning 27. It just feels like he's been in the league far too long to be going into the next season at 26 years old, but that's still younger than I thought he was. So you were spot on with him being 26, going to be 27 before the season starts. It's still younger than I thought. I thought he was like 29, 28 turning 29, 29 turning 30, something around there. But in any event, to your point, Corey Davis and John Ross could be viewed as overkill in a loaded wide receiver or a wide receiver draft. However, I've made this point abundantly clear when talking about Washington specifically. We've got a ton of young receivers already. They don't want any more young receivers. They don't want the blind leading the blind anymore. That's why they went after Amari Cooper so aggressively last offseason. They've got enough young guys. They got Terry McLaurin. He's going into his third season. He's going to be viewed as a veteran and the elder statesman of the group now, which is crazy because he's only in his third season, but that's how young we are. Isaiah Wright, undrafted rookie last year. Steven Sims Jr., second-year player. Cam Sims, a third-year player now, but he was playing his first meaningful snaps after having been on the practice squad the previous 2 years. You look at everybody else. Kelvin Harmon coming off of injury. He was going into his second year. He's going into his third season, but he's only played 1 year. And then AGG, rookie receiver last year, really didn't give us anything. So for all intents and purposes, he's a redshirt freshman next year. You get where I'm going with this. All young receivers, they don't want any more young receivers. They don't want another young guy in the draft. Okay, now if somebody falls in their lap that they love, they may take them. And we'll see what they do in free agency, but I guarantee you, if they take 2 receivers in free agency, they're not drafting anybody at receiver. I think they'll bypass that position altogether. If they take 1 receiver, which they are going to take 1 receiver in free agency, I don't know who that guy's going to be. I'm banking on Corey Davis, but they're going to get 1 guy in free agency. If they get no other players in free agency at the receiver position, then they may look to draft a receiver in the draft, and that wouldn't shock me. But if they get 2 guys, which I would prefer them to do in free agency, they're not looking to do that in the draft. And I've made it clear that I think they don't want any more young guys. They got enough of them. They don't know what they have at receiver. They want somebody that can come in and help right away. And that's not generally what you get out of the draft, as they saw with AGG last season. So thank you for that super chat, Calvin Krim. As we before we get to our next segment, want to ask of you, beg of you, implore you to subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. If you haven't already done so, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And finally, hit the like button. Only 52 likes as we sit here right now. 120 of you are out there. Would love to get this number up to around 70. Can't get to 100. without getting to 70, 75 first. So I would love to get that number up to 70, 75. Down the stretch we go of this podcast, I want to get it to 100 before it's all said and done. Let's get to as close to 100 likes as we can. Really appreciate your assistance in this matter. So with that said, let's get to our next segment. But before we do, got another promo to read. This one is from rentalkarma.com. Thank you for joining me on the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. And it's also brought to you by rentalkarma.com. Again, I've talked about credit scores, and I've talked about the importance of leveraging your credit score to help you create a better future for you and your family. Your credit score is so vital to you being able to do something that somebody told me a long time ago as a wise man. You want to spend other people's money. Leverage your credit to help you do that. And so Rental Karma comes into play because if you're a renter out there, and again, if you've got a home, we're trying to get to where you are. If you're a home owner, that's where I want to be, but I'm not there yet. And I'm on that journey to get there. And rentalkarma.com is going to help me get there by allowing me to use my rental history to improve my credit score. And they can go as far back as the last 2 years to see if you've paid your rent on time. And if you have, they can apply that credit to your credit score in addition to future months when you pay your credit or your rent on time. If you're paying your rent on time, which, as I've mentioned, there's a lot of things that get put on the back burner. You know, car insurance, it may get put on the back burner this month. You know, your cable bill, the cell phone bill might get pushed back a week or two. You may get an extension there. You ain't pushing back the rent. All right, that's getting paid on time. And if you're paying your rent on time, why not get credit for it on your credit report? This is reported to all 3 major credit bureaus. Get the help that you need on your credit by boosting your credit score by paying your rent. It's something you do anyway. Why not get credit for it? Rentalkarma.com allows you to do that. Go to the website, rentalkarma.com. Put in the promo code LTN25 to get 25% off of the services that they will provide for you. That's rentalkarma.com, promo code LTN25 to get 25% off of the services they will provide for you. You will not regret it. Your credit score is important. Why not get credit for doing something that you already do anyway, which is paying your rent on time? So, with that said, that takes us to our last segment of the day, and that is garbage time. And this is a really paltry garbage time. I don't have a lot for you to wrap up the show other than Tom Brady's extension and Trey Lance's pro day. Let's start with Brady's extension. He signs an extension to stay in Tampa in an additional year. So he was going to be in Tampa this year anyway, but this was the end of the contract. He signed a 2-year deal last offseason, and now this deal runs through the 2022 season. Excuse me. All Brady did here was he extended this deal out, and what you're going to see with this reduced cap is what the Dallas Cowboys did. They're the blueprint for what teams are going to do with this reduced cap to lower the number. Teams always get creative. They figure out ways to finagle the cap, and this is no different. What Dallas did with Dak Prescott is they have his deal. It's a 4-year, $160 million deal. We all know the numbers. We've talked about them ad nauseum. But it's really a 6-year, $160 million deal. But the last 2 years of that deal are voidable, but that doesn't stop them from spreading the money out across those 6 years. So it allows them to lower the cap hit over the life of the deal. Same thing Brady's done. He signed a multi-year extension that goes out to like 2024, but it's really voidable, and it's just a 1-year extension is what it amounts to. So instead of him having his contract expire after the 2021 season, it'll expire after the 2022 season. But in him extending it out to 2024, it allows the Buccaneers the cap flexibility they need to spread the dollars out, lower that base salary cap ramifications from the deal, which then allows them to bring back Shaq Barrett, allows them to bring back Ndamukong Suh. It allows them to find a way to bring back Leonard Fournette. All of them, the guys, Rob Gronkowski, that's a free agent. All of these guys that were up, that we talked about after the Super Bowl, they're going to be able to bring them back. They already brought back wide receiver Chris Godwin. They've already re-signed Levante David. They're going to bring the entire band back. Tom Brady has done this numerous times throughout his career in New England. He's now doing it in Tampa Bay. We talked about him, I think even on the last show, we talked about him potentially bringing back this reduced hit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and being generous with the cap, which allows them to bring some of these players back because he's trying to chase this 8th Super Bowl. He wants to get to a place where nobody ever thinks about catching him in terms of Super Bowl rings. And so he's doing his part. His legacy has already been set in stone. He's the greatest of all time. Greatest winner we've ever seen in American sports history. You know how hard it is to win a Super Bowl? You know, it's different in the NBA. The best team always wins. You're healthy, the best team always wins in the NBA. That's not the case in football. And it's hard to win a Super Bowl. He's won it 7 times already. More than any other franchise has won. One single guy has won more Super Bowls than any other franchise. And he's looking for an 8th. And now he's doing his part to try to help them go back-to-back in Tampa Bay. It's a classic Tom Brady move. It's what he's done throughout his career. And God damn it, the Buccaneers are going to be good again. They're going to be really good because they're going to bring all their shit back. And Brady's going to be part of the reason they're able to do that. And just keep this in mind when everybody likes to talk about taking a discount. Brady's done it. Brady's in a different category. Brady can do that. Brady's legacy is already intact. Brady's making money hand over fist off the field. Brady's got a beautiful wife that makes just as much money as he does. He doesn't need the bread. He wants it. Everybody wants money. And you know what's better than having money? Getting more of it. Okay? But he doesn't have to make top dollar. See, that's not how Brady's wired anymore. He doesn't have to do that. He's got enough commercials. He's got enough money coming in off the field. He's got enough endorsements that it'll more than make up for the money that he's not getting on the field. So when you ask players to take less for the good of the organization, just keep that stuff in mind. These guys aren't earning when they're 50 a lot of times. Short window of opportunity. You're in, you're out. If you're lucky, you'll play in the league 7, 8 years. You make as much money as you can while you're in there. Because once it's over, it's over. So I don't ask players to take less. Get your bread while it's there to be got. Get the butter, the toast, all of it while you can get it. And Brady, he's in a unique situation because man's got all the money he could ask for. He's made a ton of money throughout his career. He's going to make a lot of money when his career is over. So he can take less. And Trey Lance's pro day. I don't necessarily want to talk about the pro day itself because I can't tell you how well it went or didn't go. Most of these pro days go well because it's scripted. You know, you're going out there, you're throwing the guys you're comfortable throwing to, you're throwing in an environment that's comfortable. You know the throws that you're making, you set it up, you and your guys set it up. So I expect when pro day, it's only news. Remember a wise man once telling us at the combine, it's not news when a guy does what he's supposed to do. Fast guys run fast, slow guys run slow. It's only a story when the opposite happens, right? That's what a wise man once told us. Same thing with a pro day. Pro days are pro days because they're supposed to go well. They're not a story if they go well. It's only a story if the opposite happens. That's why when Teddy Bridgewater's pro day was so awful, it was a news story. Because you're like, whoa, this doesn't happen at pro days. And Teddy's like, oh, no, I messed up. I didn't wear the gloves. Let me do it again. I'm not really here to talk about his pro day. I'm here to talk about Trey Lance and him being a polarizing figure in this draft. Chris Sims had his quarterback ranking list, and Trey Lance was way down, like 6th or 7th on the list. he had guys like Mac Jones and Kellen Mond over him, and he was way down the list. And there are people that are on both sides of the fence. They love Trey Lance. They love his upside. They think this guy has immense talent, and he does. All of those things are true. And then there are people on the other side of the fence. He only averaged 15 passing attempts per game, and he only played in one season, and this, that, and the third. And all of that is true as well. Okay? Both of these things can be true. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. They can both be true at the same time. And they are. But I talked to somebody on Twitter the other day that messaged me and said, I don't want Trey Lance. You know, and it might have been on my YouTube channel. He said, I don't want Trey Lance. He only averaged 15 passing attempts per game. And I laughed at that because it's true, but it's still funny to me that people use that as a reason to not want a guy. And I said, look, bottom line is, while that may be true, there is context to everything. And there's context to Trey Lance averaging 15 pass attempts. If you watched North Dakota State's offense, you know that their offense is a very balanced attack, where the quarterback himself is a part of the run game, and there were games where Trey Lance had over 20 rushes, including his final collegiate game that mattered, his national championship win against James Madison, where he toted the rock 30 times. But there are games where they also just destroy the competition. Remember, North Dakota State, they don't lose games. They win championships every year, most years going undefeated. They just lost their first game, I think 2 weeks ago. For the first time since like 2017. They don't lose football games. And so what I'm telling you is a lot of these games are pure, unadulterated ass thrashings. That by the third quarter, they're up by 37 points. So Trey Lance isn't even playing in the fourth quarter, or if he is, he's just turning around and handing the ball off. Is it his fault that on his third pass of the game, it goes for 77 yards and a touchdown? No. Is it his fault that on the second play of the second quarter, he hands the ball off to his running back and he proceeds to rip off a 59-yard touchdown run, and they look up at the scoreboard at the end of the third quarter and it's 43-6? No, it's not his fault. So that's why he's got 15 pass attempts that game. And you go look at that 2019 season, there are a bunch of ass whoopings in there. Bunch of them. Okay? Where they don't need to throw the football in the fourth quarter. They don't need to throw the football by halftime. So there's context to everything. Bottom line is, don't talk about the 15 attempts. Talk about what he did in the 15 attempts. Okay? Pick apart what he did. Did he go through his progressions? Was he accurate? Did he throw a catchable football? On those deep shots, did he hit his guy in stride? Pick apart the 15 attempts. Don't talk to me about 15 attempts. So, Trey Lance in his pro day, all anybody wants to talk about is the lack of exposure. And look, again, all of those are valid observations and points. I'm not dismissing that. And what I'm also saying to you is, he doesn't have a ton of starts. But you know what Bucky Brooks said, and I didn't even think about this, but I've talked about this, not specifically to his case, but I've talked about this. We make a lot about guys not having a ton of starts, but not a lot of these guys don't have a ton of starts. Justin Fields only has like 24 career starts. Like, that's not a lot of career starts at the collegiate level. Like, a lot of these guys don't have a lot of starts. Everybody's not Trevor Lawrence and started, for 3 years essentially, and been in the playoffs and played in national championships almost every year. So you got 37 starts under your belt or whatever. Not everybody's built that way. Trey Lance has the same amount of starts as Mac Jones does at Alabama. Is anybody talking about Mac Jones not having a ton of starts? I rest my case. I digress. The bottom line is, while he's a polarizing figure in this draft, the one thing that you can't dispute is he's talented. All right? We could talk about the lack of experience and the lack of, the numbers, and he's not the flashiest player in the world. The guy has tremendous upside. And anybody that thinks Kellen Mond is better than him as a prospect, and I'm not saying that Kellen Mond doesn't ultimately have a better NFL career, because as we all know, it's not necessarily the player all the time as much as it is where that player lands. You go to the right team and that team is able to put you in the best position to succeed, you blow up. You go to the wrong team, that same player with all those same characteristics and traits goes to a different team that doesn't use him correctly, and he flames out. We see it happen all the time. So it all depends on where Trey Lance goes and how they utilize his strengths, minimize his weaknesses, and develops him. That's the biggest thing, is he does need developing. He's a young kid, he's a young quarterback, but man, is he talented. And to me, he should be no worse than the 4th quarterback selected in the 2021 NFL draft. So, in any event, I digress. I did see a couple of super chats. I want to take these before I get out of here. This one is from Donald Gray. Thank you for the super chat, Donald Gray. Greatly appreciate you, Donald, who writes, Lou, Thursday is Bible study night for me. Can I cash app questions for the Washington Report? Love your show. You're the man. Absolutely. You sure can do that. And I will gladly read them and address them with the rest of the congregation. Okay, so if you want to get your questions in and you know you're not going to be able to make the show, by all means, please knock yourself out, man. And say a prayer for me too while you're at it. Really appreciate you, Donald Gray. Richard R., thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Richard, who writes, appreciate you. Keep grinding. I always watch your content. Thanks, bro. I really appreciate you, Richard, because without people like you that consume the content, it doesn't exist. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't stress that enough. While I'm here, I'm going to ask of you one final time to please subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also, please, please, please hit the like button if you haven't already done so. Okay? Please hit the like button so we can get this thing up to around 100 likes. We're not at 70 yet, which is my first milestone. I need to hit 70. So we're at 68. There are almost 100 of you out there. If we can get this thing to 70, I'll be a happy man. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you in advance. Finally, I got another super chat from Donald Gray. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Donald Gray. Greatly appreciate you. My man Donald Gray writes, do you remember the show when the young lady called when she was supposed to be doing something and we heard from her mom in the background? Classic, then her sister called. LOL. Yes, I'll never forget it. This is when I was taking calls on the Washington show. She was a young Washington fan, probably 15, 16 years old. And she knew her shit, too. She was all over it. And she called in, and it was like, you know, obviously these shows, I started at 8:30, so it might have been 9:15, 9:30. It's a school night. Obviously, it's a Thursday night. It's during the season. Mom probably told her 20 minutes ago, go get in the shower. And she sneaks off, and she's hiding behind her bed. She calls in the show. I take the call. We're talking. And her mom busts in the room while she's on the phone. And she's like, what are you doing? I told you to take a bath. She says, I'm going. And she hangs up the phone. It was hilarious. It goes down in the Louie T Network vault as one of the best classics ever. It will never be forgotten. And one of the ultimate troll moves of all times, her older sister calls in the show the next week to ridicule her sister that called in the previous week and was embarrassed by her mom. So the older sister calls in to rub it in her face because she knew her sister was watching. It was priceless. You can't make this stuff up. Good stuff. Never will forget that. In any event, thank you for that reminder, Donald Gray. Greatly appreciate you. JP, my man John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man John Perez writes, which free agent bargain or bargains would you sign? On this list, I'd sign, obviously number 7 is already gone, Daryl Williams. The Bills saw fit to re-sign him, which is a smart move by them. But I'd sign just about every one of these guys. But in particular, if you're talking about Washington, I want number 3 and number 1. I want John Ross, wide receiver, and I want safety Malik Hooker. Those are the two that stick out like a sore thumb to me. If they wanted some more depth at running back, I'd sign Marlon Mack too. I think he'd be a great fit in addition because he would give them what they were hoping that they would get from Bryce Love. You can't keep waiting on Bryce Love to get healthy. Marlon Mack, same age as Bryce Love, right around that same area, same speed that Bryce Love offers you. You get it in Marlon Mack and you get it for a 1-year rental and you move on after the season if you don't like what you get. And if you love what you got, he can get paid elsewhere if you don't want to pay him. So I would take the last three, honestly. I wouldn't mind Gerald Everett, number 4 either. And I told you I would take number 6 if he were available. I don't think he's going to be available. Darius Williams, cornerback out of L.A. with the Rams, as a contingency plan if they can't re-sign Ronald Darby. But first things first, I want Ronald Darby back. So, but for me, specifically, if you're talking Washington, John Ross, Malik Hooker. Those are the 2 I want the most. So, thank you for the super chat, JP. And on that note, we are going to get out of here. I thank you guys for joining me a little earlier than normal on this beautiful Friday afternoon, but nonetheless, can't thank you guys enough for still kicking it with your man, Louie T. Really do appreciate you on the 144th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. With that said, I'm going to glide to the side, allow you to enjoy the rest of your Friday and furthermore, the rest of your weekend. I hope it's a great weekend. You enjoy it because when we come back next week, we hit the ground running. The new league year will almost be upon us and that tampering period will be underway. And by Monday's podcast, we'll have a bunch of free agent verbal agreements. So we'll have a ton to talk about. But until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Adios. Until Monday, you guys enjoy the weekend. Take care.
LouieTeeNetwork.